So today we're going to focus on making our life meaningful through the lens of how we see death and things like that. But I wanted to say this. The second part of the class...
Mendel, sorry to interrupt. Can you just text the meeting number to Maria? She just phoned me. She's lost it.
Sure.
Thanks.
Give me a second.
Over here.
How are you, Maria?
Hi, Lorena. How are you?
Are you good and you?
Good. Okay, I'm going to send it.
Will you send it to her now? Okay. Okay, thanks.
Sure. Okay. So what we're talking about today, our first part is going to be discussing about, we've learned the last 10 or so weeks about what happens when a person passes away, for the people that remain behind, how we do what's called Avilut, mourning, what happens to the neshama, the soul, things like that. We're also going to look, and this week we're going to talk about, okay, so we learn all this stuff. What does this mean for our lives? Does it mean, okay, great, so now we know what's going to happen? Is it just interesting information? Or can we use this information to enhance our lives? I'm just going to send Maria the link so that she knows. Okay. The other thing that we're going to learn is about the resurrection, which is the time that we come back. Now, I doubt we're going to get to it this week because it really is a topic in and of itself. So we'll probably divide this class into two parts. Today we'll focus on about making a life meaningful through the lens of loss, through death, and realizing through our mortality. So this life is called life is shortish, which means that our life it's not long. And when we talk about our passing, hopefully it doesn't make us scared. And that's what one of the things that we spoke about right in the first class of this course, or this concept where people, one of the biggest fears that we have is our death, afraid of dying. What's going to happen after we pass away? And hopefully one of the ideas that we achieved in this course is to realize, okay, it's not so scary. Actually, it's just part of the cycle. You don't have to be afraid of death, but we shouldn't be running towards death. Actually, in certain ways, after a person passes away, life is better. But now, it's not scary. So this made you more scared?
No.
Okay, well, maybe at least that's good. So maybe that goes good. One of the ladies over here said that she wasn't afraid, now she isn't. The whole point of we were trying to show you shouldn't be afraid, and you should appreciate what life does to you. Now, it's a great insert into our class, start to our class. Is the thought of death, does it make you afraid or not? Does it have a positive impact in your life or not? That's the question. Okay, so let's look at this discussion. I'll start off with one little story, and that is about a discussion between a panel between a rabbi, a priest, and an imam. And they asked, one of the questions they asked them is, tell me, what do you want people to say to you, or say about you when you die? So the imam says, oh, I want them to say that I served my community well, that I went and I connected the people to the Prophet Muhammad and Allah. And then he says okay, and he turns to the priest, what do you want? I want people to say that I made them connected to God and to this and to church and the community. Beautiful. He turns to the rabbi and says, what do you want people to say at your funeral? I want people to say, hey, look, he's moving. Always a Jewish person has to come up with an outsmarting answer, right? But the truth is that sometimes when you think about our lives, and when we think about passing, about how we respect people that have passed away, the real purpose of this whole course is to help us make a positive change on our lives. That's really the purpose. So that's the question that we're going to discuss today. How do we help it enhance our lives? How do we make our lives better as a result of this? Now, okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Sorry. Okay, could you see my PowerPoint now? For those of you online? Yeah, good. Okay. So, as a reminder, our course is dedicated in memory of Noah, is the one that instigated this concept of making this course, and that's how we're doing it. Okay. And hopefully this brings a good benefit for his neshama. And I want to say, by the way, these JLI courses cost us money to buy it, and obviously a lot of time to prepare them, etc., etc. So if anybody ever wants to, in the future, we're going to be doing another course. I'm going to, if I have a chance at the end of the class, I will post a trailer about the next course. And if anybody ever wants to sponsor a course or a class, it's a beautiful thing to do. And of course, it helps us be able to fund it and make sure that we can keep on doing the learning. But it's definitely an option if you're ever interested. Okay, so let's open our book to page 210. And we are starting the death benefit. I want to start off with the question exercise 6.1. You have completed the journey into Judaism's approach to death, afterlife, reincarnation, etc. Take a moment to identify 3 ways that the perspectives we gain can influence one's life and its daily realities. Do you want a book? If you want, we have a book over here. So we're going to try to see how can this, how do you think that the course, something that you learned, can have a positive impact on your life? How is it? You don't have to tell me, but think of something that you learned that you feel might be able to positively enhance your life. What are those 3 things? And how would you think about them? Page 210. Okay. So I'll just try to remind you of some of the things that we learned. So we've learned so far, one thing that we learned is that the neshama, the soul, is actually the real me, and it's eternal. We focused on that in the first class. And we've said that the body is just a temporary house for the neshama, for the soul. It lives here only temporary, not long term. So he says the soul experiences great pleasures back in its native habitat, and it's wonderful. It's happy over there, so to speak. So the question, we also discussed that when a person passes away, they remain connected to people that have left here. We spoke about how things that we can do over here has a positive influence on people that passed away. We spoke about the heaven and hell, what that means from a Jewish perspective, how it's a process that helps the people get to another stage and to purify themselves for a better existence. We spoke about reincarnation and many, many other things in the way. But those are the things that we focus on. Now, the question is, do any of these ideas help you, can have a positive impact on your life? Because ultimately, lessons in Judaism, we don't want them just to be more information. We want to know how are they going to positively influence your life. So, if you look at the next page, page 6.2, page 211, 6.2, can you identify, now this is getting back into our discussion today, any benefits to occasionally contemplating our own mortality? I'd like to hear from somebody, whether you're online or in person. What is a benefit to contemplating about our mortality? The fact, when you think about, oh, my life, mortality means that I don't live forever, that I have a short life, that I just live for a few years. How does that help your life? Does it help your life, or is it bad for your life?
Yeah.
What does it help? Okay. Yeah. You won't suffer forever? So if you suffer, I had a conversation. So one person said, it lets you know that you won't suffer forever if you're suffering in this world. I had a conversation today about somebody, and we discussed that suffering is something that is self-imposed. Pain is from God. Suffering is self-imposed. Okay, but that's a discussion for another time. And that's why I don't really like using the word suffering, but I do understand what you're saying, and it's true. But doesn't mean that you won't suffer when you pass away.
No.
You
All
can
right.
live your best life.
It helps you
You
live
can
your.
live every day as your last day.
That's right. So you're saying that's what helps you with the knowledge that your life.
Yeah, so you can live, do your best every day. You try to.
To try to do every day your best day. Yes. Well, good, and that's a great example. If you know your life is short, you read the Torah, right? Read the book of Bereshit, Genesis, and you see that at the beginning of creation, the first few parashot, Adam and Noah, people lived to close to 1,000 years. And people say, oh, how's that possible? Or why did they? Why did it change? What was going on? And the answer is very obvious. The reason why it changed is because God saw that people living so long wasn't beneficial for them. It wasn't doing them well. They weren't benefiting from living such long lives. That was the problem.
But they didn't know that it was a long life. That was their normal.
Oh, of course. So what happened? If you told a person, okay, do something, I'll do it next century. I've got 1,000 years to live. What do they say? If you want something done, give it to someone who's busy, right? But if you have 1,000 years to live, you're never busy. Today I'll have a meal. Tomorrow I'll have a meal. Next year I'll achieve something. What ends up happening? People become bored. They don't feel the pressure to achieve goodness, and they end up just trying to spend time. Time becomes wasted. That's what happens, and eventually they start coming up with ideas. Let's become God. Let's revolt against God. Let's destroy the world. That's what happened. They become too bored. So yes, long life is a beautiful thing. There's going to be a life filled with goodness. There's a story of a chassid of the Alter Rebbe. I said the story, I think, on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, one of the things. The story is that he did something, a big favor for the Rebbe, for some 200 years ago, the Alter Rebbe. And the Rebbe said, I want to give you a blessing. So he said, you got kids? He's got kids. He's relatively healthy. He's got an okay livelihood. He doesn't need that. And he was a very pious man. So the Rebbe says, okay, I'll bless you with long life. So the chassid replied, yes, long life, but not peasant life, not peasant years. What does it mean? Which means that they have eyes that they do not see and they have ears that they do not hear. In other words, he's saying, to me, there's no benefit in living long for the sake of living long. I don't want to have a long life just so that I could be around for a long time, to have a good time. If my eyes to see God, to be able to achieve what God wants, to be able to have an impact on the world and to understand and to perceive the beauties and all, then I want that type of life. But if it's a type of life where I'm just going to have more and more fun, what do I need it for? So we talk about having a long life. Sometimes we say, when we talk about Avram Zakein, Baba Yamin, we talk about Avram in a moment, he fought for the concept of aging. He wanted people to age. The Midrash says, we're going to see this in a moment, that before the time of Abraham, people didn't age. People lived till 100, 120, 170, and then boop, they would die. And there was no warning. And it says that Abraham and Yitzhak, his son, who was how many years younger than him? 99 years younger than him, or 100 years younger than him, looks exactly like him, identical. Because it wasn't like, the way we work is we grow up and then we slightly kind of start to get older, we get wrinkles and we get hunched or whatever. People just stoop and they just stayed. And then the time ended and they died. Maybe internally things started to shut down and they died. Animals. Some animals you could tell when they're getting old. Not all animals age. For us, it doesn't sound. And Avram actually prayed that Hashem should make it obvious to people that they're aging. You know, everyone's trying to stay young. Avram wanted that people should actually know that they're aging. Why? Because he felt two things. Number one, the people should see this is an old man, this is a young man. This is a person that has experience, this is a person that doesn't have experience. This is a person that I should be listening to his advice, and this person, no, maybe he doesn't have such good experience. But more importantly, for the person themselves, that the person should know, okay, my time is coming. I've got to do something with my life. Don't live here forever. And other people can say, oh, look, I see people get older and they die. How does that affect you? That's a positive thing. In other words, you know, we look at death as being, oh, terrible. But yeah, it's sad when somebody dies young. It really is. But when we look at death as saying, okay, it's just going to the next world, and it's just a stage, and hopefully it helps us, that realization helps us make our lives more meaningful. So let's look at this text one. So he says, this is from Robin D. Walser, PhD. He says, there is no exercise or reflection as potent, perhaps, as contacting one's ending. In confronting our own passing, we are better able and more willing to help others see the power of awareness of that which is inevitable, death, helping us to wake up to the tender colors of life and personal creation. In contemplating our own end, we recognize that there is still time for life in whatever time is left. Values are there to be lived until the last inevitable moment. To acknowledge this is freeing. And that's why when you know your life is limited, you also know that your life is valuable. Something that is scarce, that is limited, that they don't have infinite amounts of. You know? You're a lone traveler today? But you're traveling alone. So that's it's there to empower you. You know, from Jewish perspective, we do everything to save a life. Why? Because we value life. But why do we value life? Because life has meaning. It's not like some people say, oh, I don't have any, there's no more quality of life. The person's not doing well, not feeling well, the person doesn't comprehend things the way we comprehend things, he's not 100% there, she's not. From Jewish perspective, that's not what we value. What we value is maybe they're having a positive impact on the people that are caring for them. Maybe they're having a positive impact just for their soul. We don't know. We don't value things by how much enjoyment you're having. So from a secular perspective, if you can't enjoy life, then you might as well end it, because it's all about enjoyment. From a Jewish perspective, it's all about impact. In any moment, at any stage in your life, you're always able to have an impact. And that's why we value life. That's why life's important. And you could only live once. So make it good. Okay. So if you look on the screen, you see there's this app that's called We Croak. So it sends you like daily messages. Apparently, it has like something like 6-7 million downloads. Okay, so it's not an unpopular app. It's called We Croak. We Croak means we die, like eventually die. And the idea is to remind you that you're going to die. Don't forget you're going to die. Swipe to see the quote. And it tells you a quote like, life is short, make it happen. Sometimes it'll be a funny quote. And I don't necessarily encourage Jewish people to get it, because as Jewish people, we want to remember in the back of mind, and you'll see when we're going to talk about when we remember death and when we don't. We'll talk about this and how we should be doing. So let's look at this text. And so in Tehillim it says in text page 212 and text 2a, this is from King David in the book of Psalms in Tehillim. Over there he says in chapter 4, he says, Rigzu ve'al techtau. Be agitated and do not sin. Verbalize within your hearts upon your beds and be forever silent. Okay, let me explain to you that. Let's see how the Talmud explains this particular saying. Okay, the Talmud says as follows. In fact, TB. We should always agitate our good inclination against our evil inclination. As it is stated, be agitated and do not sin. In other words, we all want to be good people. Yeah, we all want to have a good life and do the right thing. But sometimes we struggle. We sometimes struggle. So what should you do? So he says, okay, we'll go in stages. First thing you should do is get angry at your animal soul. So to speak, Hasidus doesn't necessarily approve of this approach always, but it means like control. Say, yo, calm down. Just because you want it, you don't have to have it. Let's do the right thing over here. Let's not only go after those things. That's one thing. Number two, it says, if this vanquishes the evil inclination, all is good. But if not, we should occupy ourselves with Torah study. As I stated, verbalize Torah teachings until they enter within your heart. This is more of the Rebbe's approach. Sometimes if we try to tell just calm down, it doesn't always work. Actually, sometimes it makes it stronger. But if you distract yourself with doing holiness, learning Torah, and things like that, that has a positive impact. And you filled your heart, and you don't need to do anything else. So it says, if this vanquishes it, all is good. But if not, we should recite Shema, as it is stated, upon your beds. It is telling us, what does it say? If you look back on the statement, page 212, it said, be agitated, do not do this. That refers to agitate against your evil inclination. Verbalize in your hearts, that's studying the Torah. On your beds, that's saying the Shema. Now, the Shema is reminding us of God's presence. Okay? And then finally it says, if this vanquishes, all is good. But if not, you should remind yourselves of the day of death, as is stated, and be forever silent. So what is it saying? Fourth stage is if that's not working, then remind yourself about it. You know what? Life is short. Don't waste it. Don't sit here twiddly dumb doing silly things. You have a short amount of time to have an impact. Let's do it. I know this is a bit of at least for me, it's a bit of a confronting discussion. I'll actually take it a step further. Let's go. Sorry? Okay, so every person, the question is what's considered to be an evil inclination. Every person has what's called the Yetzer Hara, a inclination and desire to do good things and a desire to do bad things. As in, not necessarily always bad, but things that are not what we should be doing. And we know what we should be doing, but sometimes it's hard. We're not in the mood or whatever it is. That's coming from evil inclination, right? So to give what we call a parva example of this, having a piece of cake before you go to bed is like what I like to do, So if you're on a diet and you're listening, that's maybe not what you should be doing. That's maybe coming from your diet evil inclination. But we're talking more life ethics. What is what you should be doing that comes from your negative side? Turn to page, keep the page turn to page 232, and let's look at it in a bit of a page 232. Keep your finger on that page. It's Appendix A. And that's right. That's how I always consider. Okay. And it doesn't, what? We don't have to beat ourselves about food. It's not really like what I'm saying, but it's just, as I said, it's a part of the example that everyone could kind of relate to, but it means more like really serious things, but everyone on their level. This is from Ethics of Our Fathers, text 14a, but it's on the same. Akavia, son of Malal, would say, this is from Pirkei Avot. If you reflect upon these things, three things, you will not approach sin. Know your origins. Your destination, and before whom are you destined to provide a personal judgment and an accounting. And then he explains, where did you originate? From a putrid drop of seed. That's where you come from. Where are you headed? To a resting place of dust, maggots, and worms. Before whom are you destined to provide a personal judgment and accounting before the Supreme King of Kings, the only one blessed be He. In other words, it's a different take on it, but he's saying over there, if you're struggling with sin, then you should remind yourself about your death. If you can't get over it, then maybe do some time reminder. But generally, we don't take this approach. It's not the approach that we want to necessarily always be thinking about death. Because when you look at the other text, it tells us it's only a fourth stage. It's only a person that's really struggling. They need something a bit more heavy to remind them. The average person, study Torah, tell yourself to calm down, say the Shema, learn something, try to focus more on doing positive things. But in the back of our mind, we all have to remember that our life is limited and let that have a positive impact on our lives. So let's go on. So let's look at the things that people most often. What we're trying to do is put things in perspective. We often are so caught up in our lives that we forget about what's important. And the point of Yazkir lo Yom HaMitah, which we said, remind him on the day of his death, it's to help that person put things into perspective. So what does it mean? It allows us to prioritize and retain focus on what's important in our lives. Priority, what's important? Is this thing really important for me? What's the most important? Focus on those things. Sometimes we get caught up in little battles, in little fights, and little things. And they're not so important because we think our life will just live forever. And therefore, who cares? But you know what? We don't. And we avoid stupid mistakes. You know, there's somebody today sent me a bill and they charged me an extra $100 for something. That I understand why they want to charge it, but I didn't really agree to that particular thing. So I didn't. But then I said, I just want to point out that this was not agreed upon, but I understand why you'd want to charge me. Therefore, I'm happy to pay a thing. Then after I was thinking, maybe I didn't have to even make that. It's just $100. Who cares? You know, sometimes we don't have to always focus on little small things and focus on like what's more important. When you have the bigger picture in mind, when you have the death in mind, it allows you to prioritize. Okay, what's the most important things for my life? What are the things that make the most? What?
It's not something that people want to hear being reminded. It's like there's worse things in life than this $100 bill.
No. That's not for us to be. Our job is to be empathetic and to listen to people and to. But for ourselves, I'm saying this is a story that happened to me. I wouldn't go and say that to anybody else. God forbid, no way. I'm just saying something that I thought about when I did this class. That somebody charged me an extra $100 on something, and I got a bit annoyed of it. Like whatever. Like I didn't agree to that payment. Like you can't charge me on something that somebody did for me that I didn't ask for. So I wrote that. But I said, listen, you did the thing, so therefore I'm going to pay you, even though I never asked for it. Okay. So, but then I was thinking about it. You know what? It's not like sometimes people get caught up and it's over small little nitty-gritty things, and that's an example. And therefore, I'm not here to tell you what to get caught up on. But half the time when people have fights, sorry, not half the time, 98.6789%. That's a perfect, exact, precise percentage. A big percentage of the time when people have arguments and fights, it's of something that, if they'll put things in perspective, it's not that important. It's not that important. And if they put things in things, yes, it's not comfortable, and nobody is saying that they shouldn't, but I'm going to put my foot down, and I'm going to, and that's it. It's my principle. And we think about the long picture, and why do you think most divorces happen? Why do you think most families stay separate? It's because they're prioritizing the wrong things. They're not prioritizing the kids. They're not prioritizing family. I'm not blaming people. Anybody that's been through it, I'm not saying that sometimes it comes to not your fault. Once again, you see people go through a divorce, and what do they start prioritizing? They're prioritizing getting back at the spouse. And who cares about the kids? Who cares if the kids see a broken house and that we can't get along and we have to badmouth each other? We have to spend all our time and energy on trying to divide up the kids instead of coming to a normal mutual agreement. That's an example of where we get caught up in stupid things that are really of no benefit. And if we would stop for a moment and think, what's important in my life? I want my kids to be happy. I want to have a meaningful life. I don't want to spend a whole night go to court. Okay, so seize and embrace every moment. And by the way, this is easier said than done. I'm not preaching this as though I live with this, but I could still tell you what I think is the truth. Okay, so also we have a moment. Let's try to take advantage of doing it, and make it a meaningful moment. Live life more fully. Life is more meaningful, not just function. In other words, it tells us, okay, I'm here to do it. I'm here to make it, and my life is going to mean something. I'm going to do something important with our life. So let's put things in a bit of a perspective. If you get cold, let me know. Okay. You got all wrapped yourself up. It's a big bungee jacket over there. Text 3. All right. So Avram Fried has a song on this particular statement. It says, "Adam doeg al ibud damav, ve'ena doeg al ibud yamav." It says, folks fret over lost time and fail to fret over lost dime, and don't fret over lost time. In other words, we worry about our money and we get so upset. But when we waste time on doing who knows what, okay, whatever, it's just time. But money provides no reprieve, while time is impossible to retrieve. I'll sing the song for you. Adam doeg al ibud yamav, ve'ena doeg al ibud yamav. Okay, it's a funny song, actually, but it's a cute song, but it's so true. You know, when we think about it, we get like sometimes a little bit caught up in the statement that people say, oh, time is money. You know, it's not true. Time is not money. Time is far more valuable than money. Yes, we have to work and we have to provide, and we want people to pay enough that I can provide for my family, right? But time is not money. Money can return. Time is gone. Time is one day. There's a story of a Rebbe that he would wake up every morning and would go to the people around him, especially would go to like a new place that didn't recognize him. He'd say, "Oh, did you hear about the great guest that's in town?" I'd say, "No, you're the guest." Like, well, who's the guest? He said, "No, today is the guest. Today's the guest. He's never coming back. He'll never be here again. This date, this moment, that hour, that's something which we have to do." But what we end up doing, it's like writing a postcard, or you're writing a card, and you start writing a nice big letters. You got all the space, all the thing, but by the time you get to the bottom, suddenly there's no space. You start crunching in the little letters, and that's kind of what we do as people. We end up trying to fit a lot into a short amount of time. Look here in text 4 on page 216. If not for our fear of the angel of death, what wrongs we would commit against our Father in heaven. Let us learn from the first 10 generations of humanity. God showered them with abundant paradise-like goodness, including centuries-long lifespans, yet they were on the brink of destroying the world. In other words, they never used their time well. They just had life too long and they wasted their time. Here's in text 5, you kind of see this concept of, this text was written by a 16-year-old boy that had found out that he had quite a severe case of cancer, and there wasn't a big chance of him surviving. So he started diarizing for his friends and family. And this is one thing that he wrote. He says on text 5, page 217, I went to the driving range. Driving range is where you hit balls to play golf, right? It's not a golf course, we just hit the balls. The other day, and I was thinking how you start out with a big bucket of golf balls, and you just start hitting away carelessly. You have dozens of them. Each individual ball means nothing. So you just hit and hit and hit. One ball gone is practically inconsequential when subtracted from your bottomless bucket. There are no practice swings or techniques reevaluations after a bad shot because so many more tries remain. Yet eventually you have to reach down towards the bottom of the bucket to scavenge for another shot, and you realize that tries are running out. Now with just a handful left, each swing becomes more meaningful. The right technique becomes more crucial, so between each shot, you take a couple practice swings and a few deep breaths. There is a very strong need to end on a good note, even if every preceding shot was horrible. Getting a ride at the end means a lot. As you tee up your last ball, this is my final shot. I want to crush this with perfection. I must make this count. limited quantities or limited time brings a new precious value and significance to anything you do. Live every day shooting as if it's your last shot. I know I have to. I found out today 5-year survival rates are just 30%. Okay, so this is the idea that we're trying to gain today. Trying to figure out what it is that we can do in our lives to try to help us have a good life. So I'll run it, pause for a moment. If anybody has any questions or pointers to say, otherwise I'm going to actually I'm going to share a little video that I thought was just a nice way to break up the class. So it's a whole different settings when I've got the Zoom on. So
So imagine a big explosion as you climb through 3,000 feet. Imagine a plane full of smoke. Imagine an engine going clack, 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 clack. Sounds scary. Well, I had a unique seat that day. I was sitting in 1D. I was the only one who could talk to the flight attendants. So I looked at them right away, and they said, no problem. We probably hit some birds. The pilot had already turned the plane around, and we weren't that far. You could see Manhattan. 2 minutes later, 3 things happen at the same time. The pilot lines up the plane with the Hudson River.
sorry, just to I forgot to give a bit of background. I don't know if you remember about 10 years ago or 12 years ago, there was a story where a plane took off from JFK. I think it was JFK, and they were like flew into birds or something, and had to do a immediate landing, and it landed in the Hudson River. I think they may have made a whole movie about it as well. So anyway, I haven't seen that, but yeah. So okay, as long as you know the story. So this is a person that was on the plane.
It's usually not the route. He turns off the engines, not the route. He turns off the engines. Now imagine being on a plane with no sound. And then he says 3 words, as unemotional 3 words as I've ever heard. He says, brace for impact. I didn't have to talk to the flight attendant anymore. I could see in her eyes, it was terror. Life was over. And I want to share with you 3 things I learned about myself that day. I learned that it all changes in an instant. We have this bucket list, we have these things we want to do in life. And I thought about all the people I wanted to reach out that I didn't. All the fences I wanted to mend. All the experiences I wanted to have and I never did. As I thought about that, later on I came up with a saying, which is, I collect bad wines. Because if the wine is ready and the person is there, I'm opening it. I no longer want to postpone anything in life. And that urgency, that purpose has really changed my life. The second thing I learned that day, and this is as we clear the George Washington Bridge, which was by not a lot. I thought about, wow, I really feel one real regret. I've lived a good life. In my own humanity and mistakes, I've tried to get better at everything I've tried. But in my humanity, I also allow my ego to get in. And I regretted the time I wasted in things that did not matter with people that matter. And I thought about my relationship with my wife, with my friends, with people. And after, as I reflected on that, I decided to eliminate negative energy from my life. It's not perfect. It's a lot better. I've not had a fight with my wife in 2 years. It feels great. I'm no longer trying to be right. I choose to be happy. The third thing I learned, and this is as your mental clock starts going 15, 14, 13, you can see the water coming. I'm saying, please blow up. Right? I don't want this thing to break in 20 pieces like you've seen in those documentaries. And as we're coming down, I had a sense of, wow, dying is not scary. It's almost like we've been preparing for it our whole lives. But it was very sad. I didn't want to go. I love my life. And that sadness really framed in one thought, which is, I only wish for one thing. I only wish I could see my kids grow up. About a month later, I was in a performance by my daughter, first grader, not much artistic talent yet. And I'm bawling, I'm crying like a little kid. And it made all the sense in the world to me. I realized at that point, by connecting those two dots, that the only thing that matters in my life is being a great dad. Above all, the only goal I have in life is to be a good dad. I was given the gift of a miracle of not dying that day. I was given another gift, which was to be able to see into the future and come back and live differently. I challenge you guys that are flying today. Imagine the same thing happens on your plane, and please don't. But imagine, and how would you change? What would you get done that you're waiting to get done because you think you'll be here forever? How would you change your relationships and the negative energy in them? And more than anything, are you being the best parent you can? Thank you.
Okay. So, oops. Okay. You able to see that video okay? Right. That's the, I suppose the idea, tell us my background, please. The idea that we're trying to get to is how to make our life more meaningful. So I suppose the goals that we want to try to say is, you know, sometimes as Jewish people, we think like, we have, you know, this guy, he says, the only goal I have is to be a good dad. And certainly as Jewish people, that's definitely being a good parent, being a good family, slide up there as one of the most important. But not just about being a good dad, but having good values. Like I was talking recently to a family that was sharing. And they were telling, you know, they're good, you know, great parents, and they want to get their, give their children a good education. There's limited how much they could afford to spend on that education and have internet resources. I think about, you know, maybe, you know, a private school nearby that's got a good name. And I said, well, that's good, but that's temporary. In other words, getting a good mark in the school, but what about the Jewish values? What about the Jewish lessons? In other words, if they get well on maths and they get into the best university, is that going to really give them a good life? Just because they're going to have maybe have an opportunity to get a better job? Not necessarily, but more important than having the best job and having the best opportunities to get the best job, which they're not necessarily going to get, and the Jewish schools offer them just as much. What about those Jewish values? What about those values about continuity, about family, and the importance of family, importance of connection, connection in relationship with God and with your fellow Jew, etc. All those type of things. Aren't those important? And sometimes we put wrong emphasis on those type of things. Now, the other flip side of this is sometimes we feel like, you know, the prime of our age is when, the prime of our age is when we're young. And to a certain degree, that's true. That is, we have more energy. But here's the thing. Judaism, the Rebbe particularly, fought against the concept of retirement. It doesn't mean that if you are a builder or a carpenter and you got to do hard work every day, that you should be doing it till the day you die, and you can't, you know, it's too hard for you. But it does mean that you never retire from life. And as you don't say, okay, now I'm taking life back. I'm waiting. The famous line you're saying, get enough good investments and have enough money that you're banking up so that you could retire. Not a Jewish concept. Just simply not a Jewish concept. As a matter of fact, we never retire. And actually, it's been proven that people that don't retire live longer, have better lives, more meaningful lives. So the longer and more we can work and be involved. Now, work, as I said, doesn't have to be making money, but it means that every single day we get up and we have something important that we have to get done every day, that we have to go to, that we have to be, that has a positive impact on our lives. Sorry. It's choosing things other than what I've chosen. Share. Okay. Hopefully you're only seeing the actual slide and not where it says text 5. Are you seeing where it says text 5? No. Golf balls? Good. All right, let's talk about our life. What is our job? Our job is to collect diamonds. Our job is to use every moment that we have in our lives to collect diamonds. How do we do that? How do we collect diamonds? Now, they tell a story about, they tell a story about a man that he hears in a faraway town, there is diamonds. And it's everywhere. Faraway town, there's diamonds. A faraway country, you've got to take the boat, go there by boat. Diamonds are everywhere. So he goes, gets a boat ride, he gets in a boat and he travels to this far-off country and he arrives, and to his shock, there's diamonds everywhere. Wherever he looks, there's diamonds, right? So he fills up his pockets with diamonds. He goes to the restaurant, I'm rich. He goes to the local restaurant and he says, he orders everything on the menu. It's all for him, wine and caviar and steaks, and he orders it all. Great. Comes afterwards to pay, and the guy says, okay, how are you going to pay for this? And he takes out a few diamonds from his, this should do. He keeps the change. The guy starts laughing at him. This is what do you mean? How are you going to pay? Like, we could all get diamonds. We can see diamonds everywhere. They're all over the place. You can't pay with that. So he says, oh, where I come from, this is valuable. He says, oh, so what's the money over here? He says, over here, you know what, what's rare is schmaltz. Fat. You need to get schmaltz. The more fat you get, that's how you get money. So you got to start washing dishes. And before he knows it, he's washing dishes all day to cover. And then eventually he makes money and he buys his own schmaltz factory or whatever. And before he knows it, he's made a nice sum of schmaltz. And he's feeling really good about himself. He's made a good amount of money. He remembers his family, decides to take time to go to bed. He buys a big, massive ship and he stuffs all the schmaltz into the ship and he arrives back. And his family thinks, a strong smell coming from the ship. What's going on? Look at the fortune I brought back. And their family's like, I thought you went to get diamonds. Oh, diamonds, that's what I went for. And he'd forgotten. Of course, the answer is that sometimes we spend our lives getting schmaltz. And we have opportunities like putting on tefillin. Rabbi, I'm not in the mood today to put on tefillin. Okay, I understand. We don't always appreciate it. But sometimes we spend our lives getting schmaltz. So our job is to spend our life collecting diamonds. And this applies even when we are old, when we're not feeling up to it, when we're past retirement. Every moment we have an opportunity to make a life. And that's why we should never... The Rebbe, when he turned 70, if you see in Chabad, Chabad was growing steadily, but there was the biggest change almost happened when the Rebbe turned 70. He turned 70 and he says, people are telling me that I should calm down, I should relax, I should take it easy. So, 70 is the age of retirement. Because at that point, the Rebbe had never, from the day, from 1951, when he became Rebbe, almost 20 years earlier, from the day he became Rebbe, besides the fact that he'd been working his whole life till then, in very important things, but from the day he became Rebbe, he hadn't taken a single day off, not a single sick leave day. He'd been working every day non-stop. He hadn't taken a day off, and he was Anyway, long crazy hours. People said, Rebbe, you're 7 years old, calm down, take it easy. And he says, not only am I not going to calm down, I'm going to do more. And he started pushing the concepts of Batei Chabad, of Chabad houses. And he said, he wants this year, and that year there'd be like one Chabad house built a year. He says, this year, 70 Chabad houses. 70 new Chabad houses. Today, we have almost a Chabad house every 3 days being built around the world, or once a week, something like that. They have a few in Africa. But when I say Chabad, I don't know if it's Chabad houses or Shliach, there's exact things. There's, if you have a few thousand, it's happening far more often, far more regularly. People are looking, want a place, and it happens. Whether it's a Chabad house or a Chabad branch of a Chabad house, there's thousands of them everywhere, and it keeps on growing. But what did he show? He showed that no, my getting older, and the older he became, the more and more he did, which is something which is just absurd, but something which is incredible. Okay, so look at text 6. Talmud says as follows: Rabbi Yeshua stated, those who are married in the younger decades should nevertheless remarry in their old age. Those who had children that while they were young should continue to have children in their older years. So it is stated, sow your seeds in the morning and do not withhold your hand in the evening. For you do not know which will prosper, whether this one or that one, or whether this will be equally good. Rabbi Akiva stated, those who study Torah in their youth should continue to study in their old age. Those who had disciples in their younger years should continue to have disciples in the seniority. So it is stated, sow your seed in the morning, etc. It's easy for me to say because I'm still, I would consider, relatively young, thank God. I understand that for people that are older, this may not be as easier said than done, not so easy to say, but the concept still remains true. When you have in the back of your mind, I'm here to work, I'm here to make, to have. Why is it that Chabad people we have children as much as we can? Because yes, it's hard. It's wonderful when the children grow up and then it's easier. But if I have an opportunity to have another child, to bring another child, I'm not going to not do it. It's an opportunity I'm not going to get again. It's an important opportunity to bring another child into the world. The same with studying Torah. The Rebbe established something called Kolel Tiferet Zekanim, which most people have. A Kolel is for older people, married people. When they first get married, they go study. And in non-Chabad, what we call yeshivas, religious areas, sometimes people could stay their whole life and they get funders and they pay for people to study. Obviously, it's not a very big salary, but that's what they live. And their goal is to Chabad. We only did like a year or two. That was the Chabad way. And then the Rebbe said, now you've got to go out. Most people don't stay study. But then the Rebbe said, what about retirees? People retire. Okay, they can no longer be a plumber. They can't be, they don't have the ability to be whatever. Now they have more time. They don't retire. Now you've got more time to study. Right? Now make that effort to put more time into studying. So he set up, and just outside 770, he dedicated a part of the building, which would be for elderly people that should come and study. Besides the fact that the emotional connection, all those other connections are so important. So if you look from a scientific perspective, we'll look at from a scientific perspective. Retirement can cause, in text 7, can cause drastic decline in health, according to a new study. Research by the Institute of Economic Affairs found that both mental and physical health can suffer after retirement. The study, Work Longer, Live Healthier, the relationship between economic activity, health, and government policy shows there is a small boost in health immediately after retirement, but that over longer term, there is a significant deterioration. It suggests retirement increases the likelihood of suffering from clinical depression by 40%, and the chance of having at least one diagnosed physical condition by about 60%. The probability of taking medication for such a condition rises about 60% as well, according to the findings. People who are retired are 40% less likely than others to describe themselves as being in very good or excellent health. Okay, if you look at the next page, you see a little bit of a figure that shows the gray is people that are retired and how many issues they have in compared to, I suppose, of men, it has a greater impact. a retirement. I suppose that the male needs to work even more than the female, because sometimes, often, historically, women didn't necessarily work outside the house. So it didn't necessarily, and this is my own 2 cents.
They're still grandmothers and still do the school run and they go.
Exactly. They're still doing stuff. And historically, women only worked in the house. So therefore, I don't think it's as ingrained. But I think it's more like when we talk about the depression level that slightly change, it goes up by women. I think it's when women don't have those opportunities to do things. They're not keeping themselves busy. But when women are keeping themselves busy in their home, I'm sure it's even less and actually the healthiest thing for women to do. Not saying that they shouldn't work, but talking about those positive elements. But you see definitely with men, it has drastic impacts, and also for women, but not as extreme. Okay, now the question is, okay, sorry, 1 second. Let's
Well, Richard, what you'd like to say. The fact, I think, is that even though some men may suffer worse than some women, it depends on the lifestyle they've been living. And I can tell you from experience, I used to work at the airport fixing airplanes, and I was in a group of about 200 workers. So we're all socializing while we're working as well and talking, but within that group, then all of a sudden and I've noticed when some people have retired, within a very short period of time, that were seeking psychiatric help.
no.
But the fact is, if they understand what they're doing when they do retire and contemplate to take up other interests or do something to stimulate the brain, then they won't suffer the same as those people that they're experiencing, because they have nothing in mind. And
That's
it's
right.
up to the individual
That's right.
to do something
Right.
like that.
You know, the old Mr. Glick, the Glick's Bakery. So it was started by the father of the Glick family. We call him the old Mr. Glick. He died at the age of 90 something. He literally was working. He was working until his 90s. In his 90s, he was still working. And he would be there 6 o'clock every morning. And he said, people would say, when are you going to retire? He says, well, what do I have to retire for? Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do sitting bored at home? And like, yeah, he's like the model of that idea. But the idea is, it helped him live long, but he also lived a life, and every day he was meaningful. It didn't become a nudge to everybody around him to the same degree. He kept himself busy. Of course, not everyone's always able to do it, but something that is meaningful, not just to keep yourself occupied. Obviously, social life is important. But at the same time, we have to be able to see something positive happening in our life. So look at text 8. It says, an example of the blessings of old age. If the elders advise you to destruct and the youth to construct, heed the counsel of the elders, because destruction upon the advice of the elders is constructive, and construction upon the advice of the youth is destructive. What's that telling you? What's saying is that, an example, sometimes, in today's day and age, people that are old are sometimes looked down upon, and the young people think, oh, just because they can't use devices and they're slow, and because I could show them how I can use the world and social media, therefore they don't know what they're talking about. And when it comes to social media, maybe they don't. But when you talk about life, what's important in life and what's constructive, what's beneficial, what's meaningful, usually that life experience is far more important.
With
kids, they could be great on social media. They could great. They may be able to do things better. But when it comes to understanding of important things, that's something that they probably don't have. So that's the 2 parts of our class today. Now, there is a third part where we get into the resurrection. There's 2 ways of how we can do resurrection. We can do it in a short way and finish in 25 minutes, or we could do it in the long way and do it properly and do it in a full hour and a bit past. So should we do the short or long way? We could stop here.
Question.
Okay, because it is a whole topic. There's two ways of how I can do it. I can do it in a condensed version or in the full version. Full version. Okay, so that gives
Let's
us
do the
enough.
full version.
Okay, so the full version we'll do next week then. Good, thank you. Any other votes? No, we'll do it next week.
Yeah, but now we can ask question about what we talked.
Yeah. So now, so we're gonna. That's the end of. Because of that, the next part of this class is about resurrection. But instead of, as I say, instead of condensing it into 25 minutes, we'll do it as a